Hi, this is Todd Rundgren, and you're tuned to Rockseller TV.
Hi, this is Gil Assayas from Utopia. You're tuned into Rockseller TV.
Hey, this is Willie Wilcox, and you're tuned into Rockseller TV.
Hi, this is Kasim Sutton of Utopia, and you are tuned into Rockseller TV.
Rockseller TV, Rockseller TV, Rockseller TV, Rockseller TV, Rockseller TV, Rockseller TV.
Well, this is the last show of an immensely successful tour. The fans are over the moon. I've read the most ravenous reviews of people being really, really happy because 33 years, there's a lot to live up to.
Yeah.
What was the most personally rewarding aspect of doing the tour for you?
I guess getting reacquainted with the guitar. It's not like I stopped playing guitar, but I had come to think of myself more as a singer than an instrumentalist, and the fact that I have had so much more responsibility as an instrumentalist in this context was something to adjust to, and took me a while to to get my head back in that space. But I think it was good that I did it. It made me a better guitar player than I was going in.
Well, it's interesting. There's 4 songs in the set from Adventures in Utopia, which was the most successful Utopia record.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious that beyond the backstory of the record, I wanted to ask, if looking back now, can you characterize any reason why that record was the one that hit so strongly with not just the Utopia fans, but commercially too, people that far beyond just the people that follow the band?
Adventures in Utopia was, I think, the first album where we started to think, not necessarily in commercial terms, but we had fully shed the prog rock aspect of the band, where the instrumentals would essentially overpower the vocals. There would be much more instrumentalizing than there was singing. So I think that that's part of it. Part of it may have been a result of us playing around a lot and getting some publicity through that, getting on magazine covers. So there was an increasing awareness of the band. Doing events like the thing in Columbus, interactive television events, and live concerts from live radio concerts and that sort of thing. I think over time we built up some perhaps goodwill with radio, and that helped. But we never would go into the studio and think, okay, we're going to make an album full of singles, or that we would strive especially to do something that was sure to be a single. It was always kind of, this could be a single, this has the earmarks of a single, but we were never kind of self-conscious in that way when we were making them.
Well, it's interesting because I'm going to jump ahead with you bringing that up. Is 1982, the self-titled Utopia album, where you guys are doing a few songs from that record. You could pull almost any song from that record at that time that could have been a single. What was the mindset going in to work on the 1982 self-titled record?
I think that the Network album, the self-titled Utopia album, we were at a point where we felt we could write really simple and accessible songs and sort of represent. It was always very important for us to be able to play live whatever it is we played in the studio. And so we started to think of ourselves more as not as an augmented quartet, all these other sounds and stuff. We started to actually strip down. The guitar sounds become much more cleaner and easier to discern. The keyboard parts are much simpler. Instead of doing very exotic synthesizer sounds all the time, they're more contemporary or conventional piano sounds and things like that. So in terms of accessibility, it was probably, the most successful set of songs we put together. And we might have seen a lot of success out of that, but for the fact that the label folded as soon as the album came out.
Well, when you listen to Raw and then you move into Oops, I mean, Raw certainly has some accessible songs, but there's still the prog element with Communion and Sing Ring and quite a few songs on that record. But moving into Oops, was it a natural progression? Was it just maybe Kasim coming to the fore more and wanting to utilize his talents where you were, losing some of those prog elements from a more of a tighter song-oriented approach?
I think we were all kind of into the, especially the other guys in the band, because I had several albums out and stuff. And the other guys in the band were just getting more into the idea of songcraft, being able to figure out who's the best vocalist for a particular song, that sort of thing, details like that. That previously were not necessarily the most important thing. We would say, okay, if you wrote it, you sing it, but it doesn't necessarily always come out with the result that you want. So often I will write a song, Kaz will sing it, or Roger will write a song and I'll sing it. Pretty much thinking of ourselves less and less as a bombastic big stage sort of thing, because we couldn't afford to do those kinds of shows anymore. So it was all about being, a tight unit who could just jump on stage and have really tight vocals, play really tightly, have good material to play.
On the reunion tour that you guys are finishing tonight in Riverside, you're doing 4 songs from Oops, Wrong Planet. What's interesting is listening to that album today, it's extremely timely with what's happening politically, socially, in terms of the country. Is that something that kind of hit you before you jumped into the tour and saying, yeah, this stuff is very relevant with what's happening today?
Well, some of the songs are naturally so. Utopia was rarely, especially in the early days, a political band. We were more a social experiment, I guess, or something like that, but we didn't often take on contemporary politics. And I usually eschew that for the most part anyway, because politics are transient and then the songs will no longer be relevant, unless they're about something bigger, something transcendent. And so that's, I think, the reason why those songs sound like they would work in a contemporary context, because at the time it was the Reagan era, it was that same kind of thing, the rich, the elites, everybody. It's definitely no longer the 60s or the 70s, with the peace and love, good vibes and stuff like that. No, it's the post-Iranian hostages, the fatigue from the Vietnam War, and the hypocrisy of leadership, and kind of like all the creepy people that come in sometimes with a new administration. And so Swing to the Right, as the title indicates, was about something that was happening at the time. Now, Swing to the Right probably was even more relevant 8 years ago. Now we're just seeing the fallout from all of that, but there are new issues. If we were writing today, if we were doing another record, there'd be other issues to deal with that have to do with the cheapening of truth and the way that people treat each other in this contemporary era, what's happened as a result of social media, and the fact that people are not only remote from each other, they don't take responsibility for what they do, because when you're not in the same room, you can insult somebody without getting punched in the face. So it's just changed the way people interact with each other, and that's probably what we'd be writing about.
In terms of the current tour, are there songs in the set where you're pushing the parameter of your abilities that are a bit more challenging than some of the others, and you're like, wow, here comes one that I'm going to really have to concentrate to get right?
Oh, yeah, there are certainly those, and surprisingly, they're the ones that don't seem to be that challenging.
Like what?
Like I Will Wait, which is a song that the original band never played live. So I had to, first of all, relearn something that I had never committed to memory. You know, I had to figure out the parts all over again. But in addition to that, I think when I recorded it, I didn't do it all on one track and in one take. You know, it was an assembled performance. So I'm trying to reproduce what it was originally an assembled performance. Like, for instance, I was playing like the high part on one track and then the bass notes in another track, and now I have to do them both at the same time. So it does get, that's the most challenging part for me, is trying to, in a song that's kind of quiet and where everything is sort of stark, trying to play it without leaving clams all over the place.
So something like Communion with the Sun is not as challenging as something, which is surprising.
Well, there's certainly challenges, particularly when we get to the double solo towards the end of the song, because that's a hard thing to play fast and tight. But the song itself is not particularly complicated. You know, there's a lot of notes going on, but it's not a complicated song.
Well, the use of visuals is really such a perfect complement to what's happening on stage. I know you had a lot to do with that, but I also know you had a lot to do to your detriment in terms of playing and perhaps wanting to woodshed more. Could you talk a bit about that?
Well, you know, I'm the de facto producer of the show just because I've been doing these kind of shows, these larger productions and stuff like that. So once we decided we were going out, you know, I already have, it's pretty much the same crew that I've been using. So what we needed was some special sort of signature moments. I had to relearn how to, I had to relearn my 3D animation basics in order to generate that content. I have to sort of run the rehearsal. I have to determine the schedule and run it and things like that. It's not that, it's not that, you know, we're trying to be anti-democratic, but we all realize we don't have all the time in the world. You know, we don't have to sit down and argue every single decision that happens. You know, the most important thing is to get the stuff learned, get on stage and play it. You know? So, yeah, with all of those other things, I had to, you know, we have some backing tracks as well, some vocal thickeners and stuff, and I had to supervise the recording of that, and then I had to mix it and stuff. So the time that I might have spent, you know, woodshedding on the guitar, a lot of it just got burned up doing other stuff.
When did you think you guys really started to click? Where I read an interview with you where you were talking about, you know, initially everyone's just thinking about the parts and just wanting to make sure they do it right. And then there's a point where it becomes more muscle memory and you're able to move into a much more enjoyable plateau where you're listening to each other and just kind of playing it by, you know, in that way. When did that kick in for you, or when do you feel the whole band kicked in with that?
Well, probably about maybe after about a half a dozen gigs, I think we got to that point. The usual routine, at least for me, if you're doing a lot of stuff new, is, you know, you learn it as well as you can, but you're never going to get it cemented until you're, you know, in front of an audience in that sort of panic mode, you know, trying to play everything on time, you know, and in time and in tune and all that other stuff. Whereas when you're rehearsing, you know you're rehearsing. So you continue to improve your performance over the first, you know, several gigs, even into a couple of weeks, because you play a set and you think, well, I did most of it pretty good, but this song and this song sucked. So I need to work on those. I need to woodshed on those songs, you know, and then you go and you eventually find out what all your weak spots are and apply extra preparation to those. But it's the kind of thing that doesn't get all sorted out when you're in rehearsal, because in some cases you think you know it when you don't know it. In other cases, there's just so much stuff to know that it all gets mixed up together, you know, and you'd have to kind of unravel it in real time, and that, takes a little while.
Well, I asked this question to Kasim and Willie. It'll be interesting to see if you're willing to take the challenge. Mick Jagger once said that you can name any Stones song. He's going to be able to give you at least a piece of a lyric. So I'm going to test you with a couple song titles from Utopia. And this may be tough.
Piece of lyric?
Just whatever you remember. Willie and Kasim did well, actually,
Yeah.
too. So, okay, I'm going to quiz you. The first one is My Angel.
My angel comes and rolls away the stone. I can't lie. I have the fragments of the lyrics, but putting it all back together again, And also, I only sang half of the lyric. Kasim sang the other half.
Okay.
But the chorus said something like, and when something come all around me, then my angel will come and roll away the stone. I am safe in the arms of my angel.
That's pretty
like
good.
that.
Everybody else is wrong.
Everybody else is wrong. I feel so much surer now that everybody else is wrong. I know.
That's good.
Yeah, that was our rip off of I Am the Walrus, essentially. Yeah.
Now, being this is the last date of the tour, and it seems, watching the videos, reading the comments from fans, it seems everyone is so pleased, and the tour has exceeded everyone's expectations for how well the band has pulled it off, exceeding, the expectations, like I said. Hypothetically, what would you like to see next, if there's a next for Utopia? Are you closing the door completely, or could there be a next?
Well, we decided, I don't know whether we all decided, but I think the general consensus is that once we're finished, we're going to take a look at everything, take a look at the numbers, see. I think that it succeeded for us in the sense that we didn't lose money, put it that way, It costs money to achieve those expectations that everyone has. And to exceed those expectations, it costs money. Take personnel and equipment, and as well as playing the music. So it's not a simple thing to just say, oh yeah, we'll do it again. All of this equipment goes back to where it came from, and for the time being, I'm busy for the rest of the year. But after we have a look at everything, and commiserate with everyone involved, we'll make some sort of decision about what, if anything, we'll do again. I'm pretty sure we're not going to make a record or anything like that, because we don't have a record deal. Nobody's offered to underwrite doing it, and we don't expect in this particular, day and age that it would adequately return what it had to. Even if everyone who came to the show bought a copy of it, it still would not. That alone would not be enough to justify doing it.
Well, my last question is, the show that you guys have put together really chronicles the beginning of Utopia till the last record, Trivia, doing you guys are doing Monument. What are some of the songs people have been saying we wish you were doing? And I'm going to throw out mine, and I'm curious why that one wasn't done too. It's a song, I'm from Philly, so I heard it on FM radio all the time. Is The Very Last Time, which for me it encapsulates everything great about Utopia. But what were why wasn't a song like that done, and what were some of the other songs people were?
Well, it's, some things just got naturally overlooked, that we could have done. We could have done Very Last Time. We just, kind of overlooked it. There were some things that we were never going to do. We were never going to do Sing Ringing the Glass Guitar. It takes up too much time. A lot of it is, all of that jamming that goes in it, we made it a little more palatable by having special effects that went along in the original, and we don't have any of that stuff, So, yeah, but people had requested that.
Sing Ring?
Yeah, the glass guitar, people have requested that. I have to unfortunately disappoint them, but they're probably remembering it in the context of the pyramid and everything like that. So, so that was not going to happen. Or like the Freak Parade or any of the other ones that are, like excessively long and almost all instrumental. We start out with a couple of those, but too many of those, and I think that some of the fans who got into the band later on, that would be trying their patience. You can even see it now, that there is a segment of the audience who's been there since the very first version of the band. But there's also a segment of the audience who probably picked up after we were, sometime after Raw, and they're, getting their hair blown back for about 20 minutes right off the bat.
The blizzard, as you call it.
Yeah, the blizzard. Well, that's what it seemed like to us when we first started having to play it. And it got so blizzardy that I accidentally, one night, played Do Ya, a song early. And then we suddenly realized we need to do that. It felt too right to not do it, because otherwise we would have gone into Freedom Fighters, and that's more of the same odd time signatures and elaborate vocal things and stuff like that. So.
Well, thanks for consenting to do this tour. I've been after you for decades to do it, so from myself and all the fans, thank you for consenting to do it. It was great.
Now, we enjoyed it, and we're glad that we were able to, to achieve those kind of expectations.
Excellent.
All
Far
right.
achieved it. Far achieved it.
Okay, thank you.
We don't want to. I, among many other people, have asked you for many, many years, is there any chance Utopia is going to get back together?
Mm-hmm.
And finally it happened.
Mm-hmm.
What made the planets align for this to happen?
The planets align. It needed to happen in its own time. It wasn't going to happen because people were pushing for it to happen as much as it had to be, and for lack of a better term, it needed to happen organically. So it was just, everybody had a little bit of time, a window that we all were between projects, and it worked out that that was the right time to do it.
What were the most challenging aspects for the band for this tour? Or for you personally?
I probably, it's probably the vocals more than anything else, because we're playing the songs, or 99% of the songs are all in the original keys. And, they're 35 years ago, 30 years, something like that, the songs were written and recorded. So you get a little older, your voice drops a couple of notes, and that's the most challenging thing. The playing is, for me, the playing wasn't really that hard, because I cut my teeth in this band, and I really sort of learned how to play my instrument, or the bass guitar in this case, in this band. So that's kind of like riding a bike, but the vocal aspect of it is a lot more physical and a lot more challenging.
Was it a joyous experience, especially, playing again with Willie, and it's you, Willie, and Todd? It's 3/4 of the classic latter-day lineup of Utopia, and Gil is obviously fantastic as well. But was there a moment when it really kicked in where you said, God damn, I forgot what this was like?
It's funny you should mention that, because it's only been in the last, we've been out now for, April 18th was our first show, and we're just a few from finishing. So I guess it was around the second week, or second and 2.5 weeks into shows, that I looked back behind me, and Willie we're in the middle of a song, and it kind of really, a lot of the memories of the 10 years that we spent on the road came rushing back, and it was really like riding a bike. And I looked, like I said, I turned over my shoulder and I saw Willie, and it's like going home. It's really like going home.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the videos online and went to see the show in Vegas, and I see a lot of great interplay, a lot of smiles between you and Willie, which is really, really nice to see.
And the other thing too is that I haven't stopped working with Todd. So Todd and I have a nonverbal communication on stage that we've developed over 40 years. So that's I've never been away long enough to really miss it. It's just something that I've always done.
Well, speaking of Todd, what's interesting is, normally when you play with Todd, Jesse Grass, who's a fantastic player, is playing alongside Todd, which takes some of the pressure off of him to handle everything. But with Utopia, did you get a sense that he was challenging himself because he really rose to the level? I mean, he's obviously a fantastic player, but hasn't pushed himself like that in a while in terms of an extended tour where it's just him.
Yeah, I think that I think that he went into it with an attitude, and you'll have to ask him. I can't speak for Todd, but in my opinion is that he went into it thinking, it's not going to be a problem. I'll just get up there and I'll play the songs, and I remember that one and stuff. And then you get into the minutia of the individual songs and the actual riffs and notes and the intricacies that make up any given song in the set, and it's like, this is a little bit more complicated than why did I write this part and why did I do that?
What were the more challenging songs for the band to master?
I think that oddly enough, the first half of the set, because we do the show in two portions with an intermission in between. The first set is the prog rock, and the second set is the pop material. The Utopia, Todd had mentioned early on that he wanted to do the Utopia theme, and I thought that we would just do the beginning of it as sort of a tip of the hat to that particular piece of music. And he said, no, we're doing the whole song. It's a 14-minute song. And it's not a particularly complicated song, but it is challenging in terms of this. Each section has its own challenges to it. So that was a little bit difficult. And then the other one, for me at least, was Set Me Free, because it's. There's a lot of little parts that go into making up the song, the way that the song was produced and on record. There's a ton of backgrounds. There's a way to play the keyboard part that is specific to that song, voicing wise, and I had to show Gil exactly how the voicing of the keyboards was. And then there's an extremely intricate guitar part in the intro that. It's just not easy. And so that's just two examples.
That's an interesting choice. I thought you were going to say Communion with the Sun, where I'm always, even when I watch the videos of it online, I'm always holding my breath. I hope they get to the finish and they get there. Because it's so emotional song. I mean, so many peaks and valleys in that song.
Yeah, we had to do that song. We absolutely had to. The only other way we could not have done that song would be to do Sing Ring, and we just didn't have enough time in the set to squeeze everything in, so we just had to pick the ones that we thought the fans wanted to hear the most.
Well, it's a really interesting and varied set list that really chronicles the band's career, and I understand that I think you were behind two really amazing songs that have never been performed live by the band in the latter day version of the set, one which I think is your favorite Utopia song, I Will Wait.
Yeah, that when we were putting the set list together, there was some, I had to sing at least a third of the set because, Todd sings so much, and there's also a lot of songs that don't have any vocals, like the Utopia theme doesn't have any vocals, or the Icon doesn't have any vocals. It was, well, what songs would you like to do? And I had just come off doing a small number of shows by myself in honor of Utopia, and I just did 3 gigs around the New York area. And one of the songs that I tried my best to do a good job with was I Will Wait, because that is my favorite Utopia song. And it's not a particularly easy song to sing. It's not like it takes a lot. It takes a lot to get through the song, but it was a choice between I Will Wait or More Light, and I thought I Will Wait would be a better song for me personally.
Were you also behind Monument being performed?
Yeah, I requested that we do Monument and Swing to the Right, for that matter.
And Monument, was that the last song the band recorded, or was that Fix Your Gaze?
No, I think it was Monument. It was either Monument and More Light, or yeah, I think those two are the only new tracks on POV. Am I correct? You would know
bonus
better than me.
tracks. Yeah, I
They're
think it's
bonus
the
tracks?
bonus tracks.
They're not on the album proper?
Monument's not on the album, nor is Fix Your Gaze.
What about More Light?
More Light is on the album.
More Light, but Monument, was it a B-side? I'm
I think
asking you
guys- I
now.
think you
I'm
guys-
interviewing you
when
now.
you did the trivia album, I think you did.
Oh, so that's so it's on Trivia. Both tracks are on Trivia.
I think so.
Yeah, Monument and Fix Your and More Light are on Trivia.
No, Fix Your Gaze.
Okay.
Well, you're in the band. It's okay. You were living it. We don't
Yeah,
need to- you weren't carrying a history book around.
No.
But Monument has a lot of emotion toward it, sentimentality, which is not something expected of Utopia.
Yeah. I don't know. We were always kind of there were albums that we tried to get away from the sentimentality of, or that, the romanticism of pop music, and but there were other albums that, that we definitely focused on that, or at least individual tracks. It's like in Adventures in Utopia. On Adventures in Utopia, Second Nature is just that's a kind of a romantic song. I'm trying to think what the other ballad on Adventures was.
Love Alone.
Love Alone. Yeah, well, that was, it's something I knocked off in my basement in like 10 minutes or something like that.
Get back in that basement. That's a pretty good.
Yeah, well, my mom still lives in that house. But in any case, we went through phases. There was some albums that we concentrated more on being, aggressive, rock, heavier. And then there were other albums that we concentrated on a little bit more poppy attitude.
Was there any talk of possibly doing one song from Deface the Music on this tour, so each album would be represented, or no?
Yeah, we did speak about it.
What do you think you guys would have done if you did do one?
God, I don't know. I mean, the problem with that record was that, well, first of all, we had the set was full at that point, and we didn't feel that there was any one particular song on Deface the Music that would fit into the music that we had chosen already. So a lot of it has to do with what you think works well in the context of an entire show. So if we had chosen something from Deface the Music was such a departure from the kind of material that, well, we weren't really known for any one specific genre of material, but it was such a departure even from the departures that we didn't feel anything from that record would have fit into this show.
Mick Jagger has told some people that you can quiz him on any Rolling Stones song, and he's going to be able to give you a little bit of the lyrics. So I'm going to quiz you on 2 songs, and I'm going to see see how well you do. If there's even a little bit of a lyric that you remember. Bad Little Actress.
I can't carry on. This game is too long. I must be going. Extend my regrets. I gave it my best, but now I'm going. This is too much for me to take. It's too much for me to take, but somebody isn't faking, someone's heart is breaking. And if you see her give her my critique, she's a bad little actress. Her delivery don't come naturally. Anyone can see she doesn't mean a word she says. I mean, I could say the rest of the song.
Fantastic. Oh, and the other one is Magic Dragon Theater.
Look at all the advertising. Look at all the advertising. Something. Come to the show. Everyone's going. Patronize the Magic Dragon, and then it goes into this little soliloquy. This little thing.
You passed the audition. You got both of them right, which is fantastic. Well, I know we have to wrap up soon. With the tour having gone so well. And I know there's only a few more for dates left. If something could happen in the future, what would you like to happen? Would you like this to continue at some point in some direction?
I think it would be really, really nice if after having done this, that we could come back as a co-bill with another act of similar tastes, and maybe reach a little bit wider audience. and do like maybe a summer shed tour or something like that. I think that would really, I think the fans would like it. They'd be able to see 2 acts instead of just one, and it would expose a lot of other people to this kind of music, this band, and this band has had such a profound effect on a lot of people. Myself included, for that matter, and I just think that it would be great if we could do this again. Who knows? I was skeptical that this would ever happen, at this point. Yeah, but it did, and we've had a great time. It's been a wonderful experience, and it would be wonderful to do it again.
Well, I have one last question. What's been the most, and I'm going to ask everyone in the band this, what's been the most personally rewarding experience for you doing this again?
Just seeing the audience. They wanted this so bad. So did you. They wanted it really, really badly to happen, and for so long, and we just couldn't, we couldn't pull the trigger on it. We couldn't really make any promises. And so looking in the audience and seeing people, their joy, the level of joy from, and it's not everybody, some people just sit there like, but for the most part, I look and I see people and they're so happy. And, I've been doing this now for 42 years professionally, and that is the ultimate gift, is to see that from an audience member.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Kasim.
Sure. And thank you. Thanks. Hi, Fernando.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Vern, can you come and get a picture with Kasim? So the first question is, I've asked Kasim this already, but now you've pretty much done almost all the shows for the tour. There's only a few shows left. What's been the most personally rewarding aspect of doing this again?
I would have to say it's the fan interaction. It's just been great to connect with the fans again, both with social media that wasn't available when I toured, back in '93, and having that connectivity with the fans, and then seeing the support that we get from all our fans. It's just a tremendous experience to be appreciated for, being a musician and being an artist and doing something that you love, and having people appreciate what you do, listen to what you do, and move people and connect with people.
What's it been like for you to reconnect with your essence? Because your essence is a musician, a drummer, obviously a songwriter. You can do it all and still do it all with what you do for a living. But to be back out there, the excitement that I felt among the fans online, that Willie's back out there, it's the magic ingredient that makes this so special.
I appreciate, greatly the stability that I have in my current position, and having the ability also, as you said, to be able to continue to do music in different aspects, do production aspects of music, songwriting, management of audio teams, building of audio studios and things like that. That's all exciting and another aspect of being a musician. But when I play, I'm the most comfortable. When I'm on the stage, when I'm making music, and when I'm, and particularly as performing as a drummer, because, geez, from the time I was 13 years old until, until now, it's just part of my DNA. And I think that that's probably what I was born to do, and where I'm the most comfortable in being kind of one with being on this planet.
Being back out on stage and seeing the reaction and seeing the emotions that's coming from this audience, it's not a passive audience. You can tell fans like me, this means the world to us. It's not people just sitting on their hands. What has that been like for you to re-engage with the fan base, and re-engage with the appreciation of your artistry, and being back with that special chemistry of Utopia?
Yeah, so, speaking again, and we talked about this a little bit before, that connecting with the fans and seeing the fan appreciation, seeing people singing the lyrics to the songs while you're playing, seeing their reactions, meeting the people at meet and greets, meeting people after the show, coming out to the bus, when we finish a performance in an area that's cold at night and seeing 25 people standing there with albums and stories about how the music has affected their life. Again, that kind of appreciation is, it's just, astounding. Being back with the band, playing with the group again, as you mentioned, it's funny, musicians, there's many talented musicians, and you can play with a lot of different kinds of people, and then occasionally you get together where you play with a group of people and something unique happens. And it's not because people are particularly better or not better than other musicians, but it's just a fit. It's a fit like finding that favorite pair of shoes or your favorite t-shirt where you just want to wear it every day. And, playing with this band and this particular group of people just seems to have that kind of fit and create something that, that you can't calculate.
Experiencing it yourself again, this is your first tour with Utopia, a full tour in 33 years since 1985. Were there moments when it really locked in where you say, God damn, we are good, I forgot what this was like?
I would say that we've, as in the last week and a half, it started to get to that point, simply because, A, we're all acclimating to playing, with each other again. For me in particular, having not been on the road and not really performing, I had to come up to speed technically with, I prepared for about 2 months to get ready for the tour. But you just can't, prepare for something like this and just, start it immediately and take up where you left off. It takes time to reacclimate. There's the endurance aspects. Being a drummer is probably one of the most physical aspects of a rock band, and it's a 2-hour show. So I've had to acclimate to my stamina and physicalities, and it takes a while to play really, really hard with a lot of passion and then start to relax with that. And so over a period of time, that starts to happen. And for me, I think that's been in the last couple, weeks, that started to manifest. And then the band is starting to play well together, understand what each other are doing and with these particular songs, the lighting, the video production, the whole team of people is starting to come together as an organization and be comfortable with this presentation of music that we've been doing.
Working on the show, I'm curious, I asked Kasim this, were there specific songs that were challenging for you and challenging for the band to lock and be able to nail, that even surprised you, or were you going in and thinking these are going to be the problematic songs?
Well, the songs that in this interview that you'll probably hear that are the most challenging would be all the prog rock, early Utopia material where there's odd time signatures and things that are just, not so much power pop music and feeling music, but cerebral style music. And songs, the Utopia theme is not that hard, but Another Life, Communion with the Sun, those songs in particular are songs that require mental concentration, not just emotional playing. So and there's never really much time to derive an emotion when you're so cerebrally busy thinking about, parts and things that happen. And I don't think that music probably is even intended to be that. It's heady.
Yeah. For a music fan who has heard of Utopia but never really investigated the band's catalog, we know that the band circumnavigated, a variety of genres. The band, it cannot be pigeonholed for one thing. But what's the first album you would steer them to get an essence of what Utopia is about?
Geez, I guess that's a subjective question, because I would steer them toward, Adventures in Utopia, and it. For me, what I always personally enjoyed the most, I guess I would say, my personal opinion and interest is in pop music. So I love incredible melodies. I love great songs, and to me, those are the those kinds of records like Adventures are the records that demonstrated those kinds of abilities. And I'm not saying that I don't love, I love playing prog rock, and my background was, I started playing a lot of jazz music, and I had gone to classical musical school, and I can be very technical, but my heart and soul really lies in being soulful and pop music and strong song structures and melodies. And so I would say that Adventures and some songs on POV and the more crafted poppy versions and power pop versions of what Utopia was were the songs that I gravitate to liking.
On the tour, you're singing one song, Princess of the Universe. I
Right.
know there are a lot of fans that were hoping for more songs
Yep.
from you. If the band toured again and you had the latitude to pick a song, which song would you have chosen? Would you like to do in the future if that happened?
Well, I like doing Princess because, again, it's one of those songs that describes what I'm talking about right now, which is a song that is just emotional and it connects with people in a fun way, and it's very direct. Other songs that I had done like that would be maybe You Make Me Crazy. Crazy Lady Blue was a ballad that had those kinds of emotional connections with storytelling and pop melodies and just simplistic but good feeling music.
Mick Jagger, I've asked this to Kasim. Mick Jagger tells people that you can quiz him on any Stones song. You can name a title of any Stones song. He's going to be able to give you at least a piece of the lyric. So I'm going to put you to the test.
Okay.
With a couple songs.
I'm not Mick Jagger.
I know you're not, but you're Willie Wilcox, and
Okay.
that's more than good enough. I'm going to quiz you with two songs to see if you can come up with lyrics for it. Crazy Lady Blue.
Okay. Lost in a Hole in the Garden Wall on the Wrong Side of the Looking Glass.
Not bad. Neck on Up.
Was it from the...
Okay, here's...
Maybe I'm just tired of the nervous laughter, but I'm looking for Heaven from the Neck on Up.
Okay, one last bonus
Okay.
one. Always Late.
Okay. Hello, honey, I just missed the train. My watch must have stopped, I guess.
So-
Dinner is cold and the kids are asleep.
Love it. Love it. So the tour is about to close. It's been nothing but an overwhelming success creatively. The fans have really enjoyed everything. If there was something in the future, and let's hope there would be, what would you like to see happen with Utopia?
Geez, it's a hard question to answer because I don't know if there will be something in the future. If there would be, I would imagine that the obvious thing would be the creation of new music that would represent where the collective soul and musical tastes of this group of people are at today. And I have some strong ideas about what that would be. And then...
What direction do you think the band, that if you could push the band to if the band chose to do another record, what direction do you think would suit the group?
Geez, I'm not exactly sure. It could be a number of many things, but something that's swirling around in my head would be EDM combined with progressive rock.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. In terms of the rehearsal process, how quickly did things really click for the band in terms of connecting and saying, yeah, we're here, we can do this? Were there any sketchy moments at the start? Or
Not really. I mean, everybody was very well prepared, for the rehearsals. I particularly, for myself, I spent 2 months going over all the material. I took a lot of the songs, especially the prog rock songs and Another Life and things like that, and took pieces of those songs, put them into Pro Tools, and then I played along with them through the playback system and worked on ideas, for those songs. And I was really attempting to actually play those songs better than I did in the past and not leave anything on the table this time around.
Last question is, what's the most fun song for you to play in the set?
Hi.
Or you can pick a few.
Yeah, I mean, I like Last of the New Wave Writers because I just kind of like being in that aggressive space. That's fun to play. I guess I like playing, you know what I like a lot is Swing to the Right. like that feel, and I like Gil has some good solos and Todd in that, and so I like some of the songs where we can interact instrumentally, and I love singing. You Make Me Crazy, because I just like to be in that space. And
You mean Princess?
yeah, I mean Princess, yeah. And then
Sorry again, yeah. So-
Yeah, okay, and I love playing Princess of the Universe. I really like being in that space, and playing drums and singing and just being at one with that vibe. And then I enjoy a lot Play This Game, because I really like the vocal harmonies and the melodies in that song. And when we're all singing and playing at the same time, it's very powerful and very direct.
And what's amazing for me, Willie, is Todd does a few of these songs live occasionally, whether it's One World or Hammer in My Heart. But to hear you behind the kit, everything sounds perfect. And with Gil copying Roger's parts, One World has never sounded better because it's you on the kit. And the same thing with something like Hammer in My Heart and a few of the others.
Well, it just goes back to the, what we talked about earlier, which is that you can have, there's a lot of great players and they all can have an interpretation, but then you have moments where there's bands and people and a particular group of people get together and you have something unique and special, and I think that's what Utopia is.
Were you worried that the chemistry wouldn't be there, or did you think it was going to be there?
No, I didn't worry about that. I mean, geez, I've played with Todd for so many years, and so when he sings and does what he does, it's so familiar to me, and I think we're very connected, and so when we play, it's just something I think that's unique.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for making this dream come happen.
Hey.
It's been just such, I mean, I've asked you for many years about this too, so you're probably happy to
I know,
tell.
and you were asking me before the tour, and I couldn't respond.
I know, but now I understand.
Yeah, no, we're having a great time, and we're, we really enjoy it.
Well, thank you so much, Will.
Thank you.
So take us through this whole process. When I spoke to Todd backstage in Vegas, he said, I didn't realize all along I was basically one shade away from you, in terms of, what would they say with, 1 degree of separation from Gil with my son. But
well, I guess, sort of. It's not like I knew Rebop that well. We only met once, and it was thankfully at his own basement. He puts on shows in his basement. He calls it the Moulin Rouge, and he basically organizes house shows there. So I played there with a friend. I met him. I had no idea he was related to Todd. We just kind of met briefly, but thankfully he heard me play, I guess, and liked it enough to recommend me to Todd.
what was that call like, and who was the first person to call you to say, hey, we're interested?
So Rebop just sent me a Facebook message. He was like, hey, my dad's a touring artist. He needs someone kind of urgently. Can he reach out to you? What's your email address? That was it, basically. And I said, sure. Gave him my email. Then he sent me another message a couple days later. Hey, did you get my dad's email? This is really urgent. I was like, no, I didn't get it. Sorry. So then he had to send another one, and then I got it. And Todd basically asked me, hey, are you available? We're kind of in a pinch here. And I was not. I knew who Todd was, but I just knew like one or two of his songs. I had no idea what Utopia was. I never heard of the band before. Just checked out the music. Was like, hey, this is really cool stuff. I love the proggy stuff, but like great songs, great vocals as well. It's exactly my kind of music. Of course, I had to call a lot of people and tell them I'll be gone for 2 months. I had to cancel a bunch of gigs, but nothing that wasn't worth doing for this.
What was the process like in the woodshedding and the amount of hours that you had to do in such a finite amount of time?
Yeah, it was really daunting at first. I got this list of 25 songs, and first song I hear is Another Life, and I'm like, holy, if all the songs are gonna be like this, I don't know if I can do this in a week. So I started, thankfully the set gets easier as we go along. The songs get easier, because their later music is poppier and, fewer chords, fewer riffs to remember and stuff. So I started with the more difficult stuff, which took a few days to get down, and then I moved on to easier stuff. I didn't even start working on the vocals until I met them, because they told me that we have to first assign vocal parts. So I didn't even bother. I was just focusing on the music, and programming all the sounds on my synths.
Well, what's interesting is your vocal timbre is very, very similar to Roger Powell's, so you were perfect.
Oh, well, I think because all the parts are falsetto, or like 99% of it is falsetto. And falsetto kind of sounds like falsetto, like for most people it kind of sounds similar. So, and I think that if you heard the vocal parts on their own, they sound kind of silly. But but when it's blended in with Todd and Cass and Willie's voices, who are not singing falsetto because they're singing lower, it just kind of works. It just adds that kind of little sheen on top of it.
During your woodshedding before you went out to rehearsals, what was the trickiest song to learn? What was the one where where it was like, wow, this is the big mountain I need to overcome?
There were different songs posed different challenges. So for some of them the challenge was just remembering all the riffs and the changes and and just because they're musically complex pieces. And then some other songs are maybe simpler in terms of the chord changes, but they have a ton of sounds that I had to program, which is very time consuming too. So I'd say, like, in terms of the complexity of the song, probably Another Life is the most complex one.
And how about sound-wise, in terms of getting very close to what Roger's sounds were?
Yeah, so I think Monument was probably the song that had the most sounds to program, because it has a few different sections and they all have totally different sounds. So in that song, I'm switching between 3 different programs on my synths just for that one song. So.
What was it like your first day of rehearsals where you were playing with the band, and at what point did it kick in where you said, yeah, I can do this?
Well, I knew I could do it as soon as I guess the moment was when I recorded myself. After I had learned most of the songs, I recorded a few of the sounds and the parts I was working on, just solo, and I sent them a video of it. And I was like, hey, what do you guys think? And they were really happy with it. So then I knew, okay, I can do this, because I wasn't sure at first, are they going to like the sounds I programmed? Is this what they were looking for? You can never know. I'd never met them. I didn't know what they were like. So when I arrived already in Woodstock for rehearsals, I kind of knew it would be fine. I was a little nervous about the vocals, because once again, I'm not used to singing falsetto all night. That's I've never had a gig where I was just doing all night. So, but as soon as we started, they were like, "Oh yeah, that's fine, that's great," and then I relaxed, and we had 2 weeks, so it was okay.
Take us back to that first show in Penn's Peak. What that was like for you to be a part of this incredible collective that has an amazing history and very passionate fan base, who are all extremely supportive of you too. Yeah,
well, first of all, I'm really grateful for all the support. I see it online, and I see it in person, and I'm really grateful for that. I didn't know, well, first of all, I didn't know, before I joined this band, I had no idea that anyone actually cared who the keyboard player was, I was thinking it was like, if I were to play with some other pop artist, then no one would care, like, who's on keys or who's on guitar. They only care about but in this band, it's actually important. So I only realized that a little later, and then I was really happy that people actually accepted me, and because I didn't know how people would respond. So the first show was really awesome. The first few shows required a ton of concentration. We were just, I think Todd said this in another interview, like, we were mostly listening to ourselves just to make sure we play the parts right. And later on we can, and now since we've played a lot of shows, we can relax and listen to each other and just have more fun on stage. But it was still great. Learning
These beautiful songs and with this very intricate keyboard playing, what has impressed you the most about Roger Powell as a keyboard player?
His playing is very tasteful. He's never just shredding for the sake of shredding, like, even his solos are really melodic, and the sounds are always spot on. They're very kind of organic. I love the way he uses the mod and pitch wheels. Kind of sounds very, very much like a guitar almost, it's like really organic sounding. Yeah, he's great, I hope one day to meet him and tell them in person.
Well, I know you had a lot to learn for this tour. You had to learn, what you said, 24, 25 songs, and these aren't easy songs to learn with 3 chords. Were you able, once you mastered it, were you able to explore the rest of the catalog with songs that weren't a part of the set? And if so, what was impressing you?
Well, I only had time to dig into other stuff after, after we already started rehearsing. I kind of listened to some other stuff.
What were you digging?
Oh man, it's hard to remember the names. There's one song which I know is originally a Todd song, not a Utopia song, Verb to Love, which I think is beautiful. Then there were some other proggier ones, I forgot their names, I'm sorry. I think also from like the early era that I really liked, but I forgot the name, sorry.
What have been the most enjoyable and rewarding aspects for you being on your first major tour with a major artist?
Well, first of all, the other tours I've done so far have been with smaller bands, and it's never been as comfortable as this. Here I get my own hotel room. There's always a person taking care of everything. I don't have to haul my own gear, which is a huge thing for me. I'm used to, sweating, carrying my 2 keyboards and setting everything up, tearing everything down in a rush after the show. So that's probably the biggest difference. And of course, it's just a huge honor to be playing with these guys and to see the amount of love that the audience is giving us every night. I could get used to this. I'm going to try not to, though, because you never know.
I was fortunate to see the first show I saw was in Vegas, and just having seen a lot of the videos online, the band was great from the start. But you could get a sense that you guys are working things out, and perhaps there was more thinking going on and less listening to the other players, which I guess Todd has spoken about too. But it really seems to have locked in where it's almost a shame that it's near the end of the tour and it's like, wow, now it feels almost like there's this psychic interplay where it's less about, I have to remember this part, more about playing with each other.
Well, playing every night for a month will do that. I think the Vegas show is our 26th or 27th, so we play almost every night, so that's like just a natural progression. I really hope we do this again sometime, maybe Europe or something, but it's not my call, but I'm down to do it if they want to.
My favorite Gil moment in the show is in Communion in the Sun in the break, where you're doing that amazing, really quick part, and your one hand is in the air and getting the audience going. It really feels that you found a home in Utopia. Do you feel that way too, that you found a spiritual
Definitely.
home in a sense?
I feel very comfortable being on stage with these guys. I'm having a blast. It never feels like, like I'm not part of it, that they're the original members and I'm, like a fill-in. I never get that feeling. I just feel like part of a band, and there's some really great chemistry between everyone, and it's awesome. I'm having a blast, yeah.
Well, obviously not being able to foretell what the future can bring, what would you like to see happen in the future for Utopia?
I would love to record with them something. I'd love to tour more and, maybe explore other songs from their catalog, because I know they have a ton. I'm definitely going to be listening to that stuff. As soon as I'm done with this tour, I'll be checking out their other material, which I haven't heard yet. Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love to play more with Todd for his, other projects as well. And when Cass, we already talked about doing stuff together, so
there's been some
excited.
discussions among you guys about perhaps, even if it's not a Utopia venture, working with each other in the future?
Yeah, nothing specific yet. We just kind of, I think we all enjoy working with each other and want to continue.
Yeah, I've read interviews with Kaz and Willie, and they just said pretty much right from the start, they hit it off with you. It seems that there was a real connection.
Yeah, I mean, they're great guys. Their sense of humor is is great. A lot of just having a lot of fun hanging out with them. So, yeah, it's awesome.
And lastly, what's the best part of touring with Utopia?
There's so many good things about it. The best part, I'd say, is the music itself. It's just I love the music.
What's the song that you look forward to the most in the set each night?
I really enjoy Communion with the Sun. Which song? It changes every night, that's the thing. Like, You know, some nights I'll get into one song more than others. I love Love in Action. That's a fun one as well. It's like this really simple pop song, or you think it is at first, and then the chorus comes and like modulates to a different key. It's just really exciting. I love it.
Well, we're so happy to have you part of Utopia. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Gil.
so much.
Rock Salad TV. 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 Rock Salad TV.
I appreciate you having me here. Thanks, man.
Yeah, dude.